The trail camera had been bolted to a cedar post at the edge of the south pasture for 3 seasons, and in that time it had captured plenty. A red fox trotting through at 2 a.m., a pair of wild turkeys squabbling over nothing, a raccoon that seemed to visit every Thursday like it had somewhere to be. But nothing it had ever recorded came close to what it caught on that cool May morning at Gentle Hollow Farm. Gentle Hollow sits on about 80 acres of rolling meadow and mixed woodland in the hill country of central Tennessee, roughly 40 minutes southeast of Nashville. The Carruthers family had been running it as a working animal sanctuary for 11 years, with goats, heritage pigs, a pair of aged donkeys, and a small herd of white-tailed deer that had grown into something of a local attraction. People came on weekends to walk the trails, and children pressed their faces against the fence rails and pointed at the deer like they were the most remarkable things they had ever seen, which, in the case of some of those deer, was not entirely wrong. The one they called Calla was the reason most people came back a second time. Calla was a piebald, white-tailed deer, and if someone had never seen the condition before, the first sight of her stopped them mid-sentence. Piebaldism is not the same as albinism. The eyes stay dark, the nose stays dark, but large, irregular patches of white spread across the body in patterns that look almost deliberate, like someone had pressed a paint-soaked hand across the animal's flank and shoulder. In the wild, the condition touches fewer than 1% of the white-tailed deer population, and those animals rarely survive long. The white makes them easy to spot. Their hearing and eyesight tend to run weaker than normal. Nature is not patient with animals that cannot hide. Calla had none of those worries. She had Nora Carruthers, who was 17, had been helping raise deer since she was 6, and looked after Calla with a quiet, steady care that did not need an audience. When spring came and Calla's belly began to change, thickening slowly, her movements becoming careful and deliberate, Nora started spending afternoons in the south pasture. A white-tailed deer's pregnancy runs around 200 days, just under 7 months, and the family had been watching since early winter. By April, there was no question. The vet who visited in late March said Calla was carrying more than one. Nora's father, Thomas, mounted the trail camera near the cedar thicket where Calla had been spending her mornings and checked the footage each evening at the kitchen table while Nora sat beside him. Deer seek out quiet, sheltered spots when labor is near. For 2 weeks, Calla had been drifting toward that corner of the pasture, and on the morning of May 9th, the camera caught her moving into the thicket at first light, sides heaving, tail flagging. Thomas came to Nora's door at 6 and said quietly, "It was probably time." They walked out in the gray-green early light and stood well back from the thicket. A doe in labor will abandon her spot if she feels crowded, and Nora had learned that lesson years before with a different deer. So they waited without moving. The first fawn arrived at 6:47 a.m. She came into the world small and folded, her coat the warm amber brown of a fallen oak leaf. Calla turned immediately and began cleaning her with a focused, no-nonsense energy, as though she had been waiting months for exactly this. The fawn blinked. Her legs moved. Nora gripped her father's arm without a word. Then Calla lowered herself to the ground again, and Thomas said quietly what they were both already thinking. The second fawn took longer. Calla shifted and stilled, shifted and stilled. The first fawn had already pulled herself upright on shaking legs and was nosing along her mother's side. Nora watched through the long lens of her camera, barely breathing. At 7:23 a.m., the second fawn arrived. Between the dampness and the low morning light, it was hard to see clearly at first. Then Calla turned toward the newborn, and the sun caught the fawn full on, and Nora made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a laugh. The second fawn was white, not patchy white like Calla. White, the way fresh snow is white, with a pale pink nose and ears so thin the light passed right through them. A piebald fawn, like her mother, but more so. As though whatever had scattered patches across Calla's coat had gone further with this one and held nothing back. What happened next came without warning. Calla had been calm and steady with the first fawn. But when the white fawn tried to stand and wobble toward her, Calla backed away, not gently. She stepped sideways and put real distance between herself and the second fawn. The white fawn fell, then tried again. Calla moved away again. Then, with a deliberateness that Thomas would later say he could not unsee, the doe lowered her head and shoved the fawn hard into the grass. Nora was already moving toward the gate. Thomas caught her arm, but not for long. Both of them understood what was happening. The vet had said it was possible, but knowing the reason for a thing and watching it unfold are not the same. A doe makes a cold calculation when one of her offspring is unlikely to survive. The white coat means she cannot hide from anything. The weaker hearing and eyesight that often come with piebaldism mean she may not sense danger until it is too late. Raising her would drain energy that the healthy fawn needed. The instinct was not cruelty. It was arithmetic. Nora reached the fawn before Calla could strike again. She lifted her off the ground and walked back to the farmhouse with the small animal held against her chest. The fawn was shaking. Her pale eyes were open and unfocused. She smelled like wet grass. Nora sat down on the porch steps and held her, and slowly the shaking stopped. The vet came that afternoon. The fawn was healthy, which surprised everyone a little. Some hearing sensitivity on one side, possibly. Eyesight to monitor over time. The pink skin around her nose would need sunscreen in summer, which struck Nora as almost funny until it didn't. Thomas arranged for a fawn formula. Nora set an alarm for every 4 hours, including through the night. The name came from Nora's younger brother Marcus, who was 12 and working through a Norse mythology project for school. He said the fawn needed a name bigger than she looked. He suggested Scotty, the Norse goddess of winter and the wilderness, is always shown dressed in white. The family agreed the moment they heard it. Scotty grew, though not without hard stretches. In early June, she refused the bottle for days, and Nora sat on the barn floor coaxing her for hours at a time. A chest infection in late June kept everyone from sleeping. There was an afternoon in July when Scotty got out of her pen and was found standing in the driveway, studying Thomas's truck with calm suspicion. By August, she was eating solid food. By September, she had moved into the main enclosure, separated from Calla by a shared fence, so the two could grow used to each other without contact. Calla showed no aggression from a distance, no recognition either. Her brown fawn, whom the family had started calling Cedar, was doing well right beside her. The trail camera footage had traveled by then. Thomas had shared a short clip in a local wildlife group, and it moved outward, shared and reshared until it found people far outside Tennessee. The comments were long and emotional in a way Thomas had not expected. What seemed to reach people most was not the birth itself, but the moment after. A mother turning away, and a teenager going through a gate to pick up what had been left behind. Scotty would always run small. Piebaldism affects more than color. Bone density, organ function, and immunity can all trend lower in affected animals. She would need to be watched her whole life and would never be released into the wild. Gentle Hollow would be her permanent home. which felt like a reasonable arrangement for a deer who had been knocked into the grass in her first hour and carried to the porch by someone who had not stopped to think before acting. On the last warm weekend of that fall, a family drove out from Nashville because their daughter had seen the clip and had not stopped asking about the white fawn since. The girl was maybe 8 years old. She stood at the fence and called softly, and Scotty, who had no fear of people and never would, walked over and pressed her pale nose into the child's open hand. Thomas watched from across the yard. He thought about the feed bills, the late alarms, the fencing that always needed work. He thought about instinct and what it protects and what it leaves behind. Then Nora called Scotty's name from behind the barn, and the white deer turned from the fence